Welcome to How to Succeed During a Pandemic. Hi, I'm Wendy Lally, your host, and I'm thrilled that you could join us today. This show is based on a very simple premise, namely that getting through a pandemic is not the easiest thing in the world. And yet, some people are not only managing to survive, they're actually thriving. So we thought we would ask them to come and talk to us and tell them how they're doing it. I'm a copywriter. I'm a marketing strategist, and in my business, I often interview people to help them with their business, to communicate what they do to their customers so they can get more of them. So this show is sort of a natural fit for me because when I meet people and I invite them on my show, I get a chance to interview them the way I would if I was helping them to market their business. And I not only do that, I get a chance to introduce them to you, which is even more fun. Today, we have a show that's especially fun because of the people that I've invited to come and talk to you. They're Val and Jeff Gee. Val and Jeff are literally comedians, but today we're going to talk about their profession, which is training. But I know them as comedians, so that's the way it is. I actually met them at a little cafe called the Eastgate Cafe, where they were entertaining that night, and I didn't realize that they were professionals, and I thought I had just stumbled onto a good thing with these two crazy people making me laugh. But anyway, as it turned out, I found the wicked truth, and I'm bringing you them today. Val and Jeff, I'm going to shut up because I'm getting nowheres with this introduction, and I'm going to turn it over to you to tell the folks about yourself, how you met, how you started training, and what you're doing now. Hi, I'm so glad you could join us.
We came in 1983, and it was Jeff's company. He was working for a communications company in London, and they wanted him to come over here to be the director of sales and marketing and set it all up. So we were only supposed to be here for 2 years. We loved it over here, although you didn't really like the corporate life so much. So that's why we started our own company.
You mean because I was asked to leave? Yes. That's always a good sign that I'm not really a corporate person. Get out of here now.
So so then we started, our first client was Motorola, and we just grew and grew to be $1 million company. And then in 2008, things went a little bit sideways. So that's probably
one way, yes.
A different story. But so we've been through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, starting our own business, losing customers because of the economy, and then always somehow getting through. So that's kind of, I think, why maybe you've got us here today, is like, how do you get through this stuff?
Exactly. And that is a sort of ongoing theme of this program is people managing somehow to make it through. And that's why we're all here. And I think it's an important thing for other people to hear because it can be a very depressing, very discouraging time for a lot of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And knowing that people just like me are somehow managing is a good life lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes I love to do self-help and listen to mentors. And the thing is that the people that always seem everything's going really well, and I wonder behind the scenes, is it? Because certainly for Jeff and I, it isn't always going well. We just had this big argument just before, actually, a couple of hours before, and I was saying to Jeff, I just don't know. I was just blah, 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 and he was. So we had this thing going on.
I would never do that. But
And how we got out of it was, Jeff is a great one for getting us out of situations. He made a cup of tea. I had a little cry. I had the cup of tea, then I went back to him. I said, I'm so sorry, for it. So it's kind of like that. I think it's really about, communication.
well, yeah, whatever communication means, because there's so many things that we all talk about. You must be able to communicate and da. What does that really mean? I think it means to be very open with your partner to being, there you go.
Look
Yes.
what I have. I've got to show this to
One
everybody.
of our books.
Your book.
Buy it now.
So, it's called Communications, and you're writing 12 books of this, right? In the series.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am.
And
I'm
you're still doing
and
it.
I'm still doing it. So the next one is Happiest I've Ever Been, which is kind of like a silly little,
Which got us into this argument in the first place. The
yeah,
happiest I've ever been, even when it's not happy. But that is it.
yeah.
How do you stay not so much happy, but yes, happy is great. That's wonderful. But how do you do it as you're going through this pandemic? We're going through, obviously our work has been hit. We're doing less and less work than we were
Right.
before. How do we keep that going? How do we keep in touch with people when you can't supposedly go out and see anybody? So those are the sort of challenges that come up. But for every challenge, there's that opportunity to do more and better because of this virus. This virus has opened up, I think, a lot of good things for people. I actually
You
believe
know,
that.
I agree with you. Originally, this program was called How to Succeed in Business During the Pandemic. And then in the course of interviewing people, I realized that it was a much bigger topic than that. And I was limiting what the discussion was because it has affected everything that we're doing,
Mm.
not just the fact we can't go to the office anymore.
Right.
And you guys are a perfect example of that. But I wanted to get into, I showed the book, right? So
Beautiful, thank you.
obviously you're writers and you're dealing with McGraw-Hill. By the way, how did you get to McGraw-Hill? Did they come to you when you were doing your training or you went to them?
No, that was a lucky break.
It was a miracle.
Or a miracle.
We were living in Lake Forest. We had our little office there, and we were doing a lot of business with Motorola. And we said we'd like to write a book. And I had this huge book. It's called The Writer's Market. And we went through it. And we saw McGraw-Hill, senior editor. Richard Narramore was his name. And I said to Jeff, here's his phone number. Jeff phoned, and the guy actually picked up the phone.
Yeah, well, that was the first thing that freaked me out because he actually answered his phone, which I thought we'd have to go through at least 6 people before I got to him. But he said, "Oh yeah, well, what is it about then?" So I sold him the idea of what we were trying to do about customer service, and he literally said, "Listen, I'll send you all this stuff, fill it in exactly what I ask you to do, and send it back." And Val, bless her heart, did exactly as she was told. 2 sentences on this, 4 bullet points on that. Don't talk about this. Where is your competition? Name all of those people. And literally in about a week later, he comes on, he says, why don't you come to New York and we'll get all this signed up. And he did.
Wow.
Yes.
So it was a miracle because that usually doesn't happen.
Well, it was a miracle, but those books are like big sellers and have continued to be big sellers, right?
Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
several of them, and it's great. Because as you know, if you've written a book, then you're the expert.
Yes.
Whether you have a clue about what you're talking about or not, because you wrote the book, you've become the expert. So we're experts, which is ridiculous. But I think what we bring is just a common sense way of looking at life. All of our training seminars and networking process is about whatever I am doing, which mind am I in? Am I in the right state of mind to be doing what I need to do? If I wake up in the morning feeling grumpy and I go to work, which is quite normal, and we all know that, but what do I do when I walk into the office and I'm feeling grumpy or tired or upset because Val's had an argument with me and diddly do?
Yeah.
How do I do that? And it's really down to me taking responsibility for me being great, being average, or being poor. Which one do you want? So we want to be great. So every time I walk in anywhere, or every time I'm talking like to you, I want to make sure that whatever I do, you're going, oh, this guy, I like this guy because he seems to be okay. He's not talking about stuff that's depressing and miserable. So that was my attitude of life. Is that the same as yours?
Yeah, I think, and as a team, Jeff he was in sales, you know, when we first got married, he was in
Right.
sales. I was looking after the kids, but I've always loved writing. So
Mm.
I'm more the writer, he's more the salesperson. So it was really just a great coming together, which we had no idea until you started the company that that's how it would work out.
And Val was amazing. I mean, really,
I am amazing.
yes, she does all the work and I schmooze people is basically what it's about.
Well,
So, but she took that, just being the writer and doing that whole book and getting everything together, to actually going out on the road and doing what I was doing, which was facilitating and doing speakers engagements and things like that, which
yeah.
has been tremendous.
Can I tell you something though? That from that very first beginning, when I gave you Richard Narramore's telephone number, he's not there anymore, but I would never have phoned him. So that's the kind of thing, you know, it's putting in the skill. You have the skill that I didn't have, and I have the skill that you didn't have. So that's how it
Well,
works.
that's called teamwork and a
Yes.
partnership, and that's what
Yeah.
it's all about. Val, did you have any background in training?
No, I didn't. I no. In fact, my education is pretty limited. I left school when I was just 15, went to Italy to work for 2 years. My education is literally traveling the world, being in the world, learning street smarts, how to do it. That's really been my education, and it's been fabulous because I never expected to be here writing, publishing books. Jeff was just about to say I'm in the Wednesday Journal at Oak Park every Wednesday. I'm submitting things, and I'm just really overjoyed to see my
Yeah.
little pieces of poetry in there, and just to be
Oh, that's
uplifting and
wonderful.
optimistic. Yes.
Yeah. For the last 4 editions, she's in there doing.
Well, the other thing I want to talk about too is the way you've used comedy in your training,
Yep.
and that really is sort of the hallmark of your training, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think if you have an audience that is laughing, then you have an audience that's captivated, interested, and wanting to learn more. As soon as some chemicals happen in the brain when you're laughing that really highlight that this is something good and worth listening to, because I'm actually laughing. And laughing is hugely good for the human being, for your lungs and your blood circulation, and your brain goes, woohoo, we're laughing. It's
It was,
wonderful.
I think, Norman Cousins who wrote a book. He was suffering from cancer, and he got the Marx Brothers films and
Oh,
whatever else that would make him laugh, and he swore that was what helped him get over the cancer because of
Yeah.
that the chemical in the brain that you're talking about.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
can I just tell you about, so just before the pandemic, we were doing a workshop with NASA. Where was it again? I can't, at NASA headquarters, wherever that was.
Some.
And anyway, so we went there, and they had been in training. There was like 50 people in this huge room. They were all on their computers. They were doing this training. They all looked so tired and desperate, and just really, they just wanted to go home.
They were scientists and engineers.
So we come along, and we're looking at this lot, and I thought, oh my goodness, I don't even want to attempt to train them. We were doing it on behavioral sciences, you know, their personalities.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jeff went in, and he just woke them up with the way that you are, and suddenly their laptops were put away. They're listening. They're engaged. He made them laugh. He made them learn. It was fantastic. It was just fantastic.
It was something that something happens instantaneous when I'm in this was a large room with a U-shaped tables going all the way around with this big piece of carpet in the middle. And for some reason, down the middle of the carpet was a blue tape. And nobody had any clue why it was there. It was just there. So I started off by saying, you know, hi, here we. By the way, put your hand up. Were you drinking last night? And even the scientists and engineers drink. So most of the hands went up. I said, okay, we'll start over at this end, and you have to walk down the blue line to see if you're intoxicated or not. So that started them laughing, and it just went from there. If you can break the ice with humor, wonderful things happen. Wonderful things.
Well, I think the other thing that happens when you make people laugh is that they want to listen to what you have to say
Yes.
because you've made them feel good. And even if it's stuff they may not want to hear, Mani Pathan, the business training things that he did, I mean, they're absolutely hysterical, and he's talking about very serious topics.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You can make literally anything funny if
And the
you put
thing
that
about
on.
the books, though, Val, is that even if I know you have other people who go out from your business to train as well. At least you have had in the past. Are you
Yeah.
still doing that where you
Oh yeah,
have teams go out?
yeah.
Yes.
Do they use your books? Is that the guide book that they use for the course, or is it based on something else?
Yeah, very often. I mean, the latest book that we wrote is called Business Improv, which is about literally using improv skills in business, and that's being used. And so other people in MJ Learning, which is our company, use the skills from that. You know, storytelling, how to think on your feet, that whole yes and instead of saying no. There's so many wonderful skills in that book, Business Improv.
Applies with, Val and I, because we've been together for 51 years. Do we have arguments? Yes, because we're both very
Passionate.
passionate, feisty people, so we can get upset quite easily. But where do we go from there? If I keep saying she's wrong and I'm right, we would never have stayed together. Never.
You know
So,
what's
yeah.
fascinating about that is, like, in the middle of an argument, there will always be a point where one of us says something that I feel this little giggle, this little bubble of laughter, because it's like it's so ludicrous what I've said, or And what I've noticed is, though, I will do anything to stifle it, to not let that giggle come up, because then I kind of lose. But what I'm learning more recently, and thank goodness, even at 71 years of age, I'm still continuing to learn, is to
Oh,
release that giggle, because then we're laughing and we can get over it.
it's like what you said before, Wendy. You can't even remember what you were getting upset about a week later. So here we are getting upset about this very important thing that we now realize 3 days from now will be totally unimportant and ridiculous. So why not do it? We did this thing when we were starting about the marriage and everything. If you do this to each other, you try having an argument now. It's impossible. So as soon as we know we're going into that, you do
We
that,
should have
and
done that today. We
should
forgot,
have.
didn't we?
Well, I was very upset with you.
Tell me about the webinar you're doing for married couples. The one that's it's going to be on Wednesday and Sunday at 6. Is that right?
Well, that's the Facebook Live that we do. But we're
Yes.
actually going to be doing this week. Well, it's Friday. I think it's 10 o'clock in the morning, Central Standard. And Sunday at 6 o'clock at night, we're going to do a Zoom webinar on communication for couples, partners, that kind of
Okay,
thing.
let's get this straight. So
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
say it again. When is the
Okay.
webinar and
Right.
when is the Facebook?
Facebook Live is every Wednesday and Sunday at 6 o'clock in the evening, Central Standard Time. And the Zoom communications webinar is this Friday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning, and this Saturday at 12 o'clock noon.
And how will people find you? I mean, Facebook, I think is relatively easy, right?
Yes. The webinar, really, they have to email us, I believe, to get the link. I think that's how that
Yeah.
works. So
Just like we did with you.
I think you'll have our email at the end where they can email, and we'll send
Okay,
it.
we're so you've got the webinar, you've got Facebook going. Is there another book in the wings happening?
There's always another book in the wings happening. Yes, I'm always writing. The thing about it's funny, because the thing about this communication book that I wrote, I used a lot of these skills that we used when we wrote the programs for the VA hospital. Things like the acronyms, like BEST, build rapport, exchange information, seek agreement, take action. And all of these things seem wonderful, but in the moment of, it's hard to remember that. So I think the next book that I want to write is a more honest approach of how to communicate.
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing that comes about every time is whatever is going on in your mind, that's what's going to happen to you. So we've got, again, back to sometimes my thoughts will go all over the place and I can't believe I actually thought them, because that's how weird human beings are. We have these really weird thoughts flash through our mind. And we also have things that I remember when I was at school, when I was 6, my teacher said I was an idiot, and it stuck with me for the rest of my life.
My teacher said that to me.
Well, she may have a point.
We had the same teacher, by the way.
Yes.
But go on.
Yeah, we've known each other since Val was 10. So it's those things that we hang on to that really cement in our heads, and we become less than because we're thinking about the fact that I'm an idiot because I was told by my teacher or my parents or religiously, so therefore I'm an idiot. Well, of course, it's not true at all, but we keep it going. So for me, it's remembering my thoughts when I wake up. How do I want the day to be? Good, bad, or ugly? Because I'm in charge of me. In fact, the only thing that I'm in charge of is me. I would love to be in charge of Val, but she won't let me. So that's the way it is. So what is going on in my mind at any given point decides where I'm going to be. Now, if I want to be happy, full of joy, fun, and having a great time, that's what I need to do. And it's a discipline. I need to discipline myself. You know, when I walk into restaurants, my objective is to get whoever serves me to smile and laugh. That's it. The food is the food. It's usually good anyway. So, but if I can make that waiter or waitress or the busboy laugh, I've made my day. And I think I've made theirs because now they're laughing. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. I know someone he was Canadian. He joined the Second World War before Canada had officially gotten in, and he was captured. He was a German war prisoner,
Oh, wow.
almost from the beginning of the war. And when he got out, then he had some family issues and everything. But I was talking to him. I had a bad day, and he was feeding me drinks, which was very nice of him. He was a terrific guy. But if you were ever depressed, this was the guy you called to pull you up. And his standard response was, "Listen, you're not in a German war camp. How bad can it be?" You know, it's like
Yes.
That's definitely a way of looking at it. Yeah. And we're not. We are, in most of us, in a great position to do something. You know what I mean? Some of us have we haven't been doing much work, so, you know, we could feel desperate about that. You know, where's the work coming in? We've got the pandemic. Can we face each other for another day of, you know, all the days seem to merge into one long day now. How do we make that happy? Well, let's do something different. Let's play cards. Let's just, and watch television. Nothing wrong in watching television, because sometimes that scares the bejeebers out of you. So you get scared. That's a great feeling, to be frightened with a horror movie. That's wonderful. Things that make us get out of ourselves thinking about thinking would be great.
Don't you think also at this time in this pandemic and everything, that whole thing about when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And when I was doing the VA talks, I would always have at some point about how great America is. I mean, you know, we're from England. England's great, and I love it here. And even through all of this that we're going through, I love being in America. I love being an American because I think this is where it happens. There's so much going on. That 80-20 rule, I do believe 80% of people are just amazing, and there's a 20% who are just kind of like not really sure, scared, greedy, whatever. But the majority of Americans are great. It's a fantastic country. I think there's a huge opportunity to make it even better, so that we can be a light to the world, so that we can show this is how democracy works. And for us, it does start in our marriage, because every time we overcome situations, that energy kind of goes out. So you know, it's going to the store. There's the fruit there, the produce that we still have. I know we had a run on toilet rolls, but now we've gone a little bit back to normal.
That was a bit weird. Yeah.
So much to be grateful for. Let's just be the best that we can be every day, even when we don't want to, even when they don't deserve it.
Yes.
Which is a tagline from our book, Super Service.
Well, I have to say that I'm very hopeful about what the future holds. Even though we're going through this really terrible political situation at the moment, but I feel like it is at the moment, and
Yes.
it is something that we have some power over.
Yes.
You know, each one of us individually has power about the way we conduct ourselves, and voting and working for politicians, working for candidates. We have some control, and if we only choose to exercise it. And this last election, I have to tell you, I thought it was amazing.
Yes.
We had people came out. They had a pandemic. We've had voter suppression. We've had all kinds of reasons why people shouldn't have voted, but they did.
Right.
So that to me is a very hopeful moment.
But it is for the ones who enjoy the results. But remember, there's just as many who don't. And I think that's where we have to have compassion, again, communication, listening, and
listening, I think, is,
you know, just being willing that other people have different beliefs from my own, and we can still come together with empathy, joy, the fact that we're human beings on the planet.
I think that many of the problems of the people on the right and the left are the same problems. It's just they're choosing to look at the solutions in a different way.
Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, I agree with you.
So maybe if some of those problems are solved, some of those positions will change and not be so intense and extreme.
Correct. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I don't agree on shopping, though. She makes me go shopping. Now, seriously, Wendy, this is a little thing, and you might find this interesting. So we're going into Whole Foods or Pizza or anywhere like that, and we're going in to get bread, right? Bread. And as I get out the car, she's opening the trunk to get out bags. So I say, why do you need the bags? And she says, well, you never know what we might find in there. And I know that we're going to find acres of things. And the one piece of bread ends up 22 baskets full of stuff. What is that about?
Well, I tell you what it is about now is I go on my own and I make a list, and I'm very happy. And you're happy not to go.
Yes.
And I won't tell you the store I go to, but I love it. It begins with A and ends with I. and it's 4 letters.
But that's my little story about shopping.
Okay, well, I think we're going to end with that. So.
Yes, I think. Well, I've certainly enjoyed talking with you. That's been wonderful.
Yes.
For me as well. And I'm going to put us back on gallery view so we can all say goodbye together. Okay. I want to thank all of you who stopped in to hear the show, and I hope you enjoyed it and you'll come back again next week. And I just want to remind you that we are on 216thenet.com. We'll be there Monday from noon to 12:30, and you can listen to us as a podcast. And then the show will be showing on a Facebook page called Succeed in a Pandemic. And that will be on all the time. So I hope you'll tune in to that and catch us there.
We will.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, Val and Jeff G. And I hope you'll tune in to their shows as well. All right. With that, I'm going to say goodbye. And my usual, stay in and stay well. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.